Hello and welcome to Shattered Lives. I'm Paul Healy and I'm joined as ever by Michael O'Toole. As anyone who still listens to us hopefully knows, we've been away for some time and we do apologise for that. There's no real way to, even thinking about trying to rehearse what I was going to say, there really is no way to tee this up or to talk about it, but we've had a tough couple of weeks, really dealing with a sudden and horrific loss of our colleague and friend, Mick O'Neill. And as a result of what happened, obviously we just haven't been able to come back to you and talk to you until now. And I do want to mention that obviously we did have two podcasts out that are among some of our biggest, and thank you to those who have continued to listen to them. The Ryan Casey interview and the prison podcast both did exceptionally well in the interim, so showing that people still wanted to listen to us in the interim. But I know we haven't talked to you face to face in some time, and that's because, look, we're grieving and we're really struggling to talk at all these days about what we still have to do for a living. But Mick, I'm going to tee it over to you first. We obviously want to acknowledge the fact that we had a great friendship with Mick and that we're still missing him big time.
Grief's a terrible thing and it affects people in different ways. I worked with Mick for 20 years, and a lot of people who listen and watch this pod will have heard the name Mick because you and I, especially you in the last couple of years, you two were like really close. I had more than 20 years with Mick, traveled all around the world. And the grief really hits me. I have to say, like, I'm 55, I've lost people, but I've never lost someone so suddenly like that. And that's what's getting to me. There's lots of things that are getting to me, but that's what's really getting to me. And the fact that I told you this, there was something I wanted to say to Mick. We were on a job, maybe the 23rd or 24th of June, we were staking out the fellow who was arrested over Annie McCarrick. Do you remember I did it one day and you and Mick did it the next day? Yeah. And I came away from talking to him that day, and I remember saying to my wife, I'm going to have a wee chat with Mick about something. And I went on holiday. And I came back, I think, on the Thursday. On the Friday, I didn't want to talk to anybody because it was the first day back in work, and I thought, fuck it, I'm going to ease myself in. And then I got the call on the Saturday that he'd been killed. And I had to tell all of you guys as well, you were shopping. And I that is getting to me, that I never got to say what I wanted to say to him. But life is, in the normal scheme of things, it would have. And that's really hard. It's just really hard. And I've been on 4 or 5 jobs down the country since Mick died. And my default is, whenever I'm told to go on a job, my default is to reach for the phone and tell Mick we're going on a job.
Oh, same.
And I find that did you get that as well?
Same, yeah. I think we should possibly explain to people, because to be fair, a lot of people knew Mick, but he was
mentioned a lot on this pod. He was the famous Mick we would always talk about.
We should explain to people that obviously Mick O'Neill was our staff photographer, and we worked with him every single day. I pretty much was with him every single day, and he passed away suddenly in a motorcycle accident just over a month ago now.
12th of July. 10 to 11 on the 12th of July.
Crazy. Just can't believe the amount of time that's passed already is insane. Just to be able to even talk about this now, it's not easy to talk about it. Because, whatever about being colleagues on the road and working together, when you spend that much time together, you become friends and you share a lot. And we did, and there wasn't, I think I only said to you the other day, Mick, like, it was a particularly quiet day. And I said, by now, like, it was only 10 o'clock in the morning. I said, by now, Mick would have rang me 3 times by now going, come on, get the fuck out of the house. Where are we going? What are we doing? Mick was like he would put all of us to shame in terms of, you know, I mean, he was in his 60s and yet his work ethic was insane. And he kept me busy. And I suppose I'm only realizing, you know, you talk about things you notice when someone's passed away. I'm only really appreciating how much I relied on Mick, not just work wise, but I mean, as a friend, as someone to talk to every day. That constant company that I had is just gone, and I miss that. He was a friend above all else, and we went through this shit together, and it's really, really hard. It's really, really hard to do it without him.
There are lots of guards, obviously, who listen to this, and I've spoken to a lot of guards who would have known Mick and would have known our relationship. And the relationship that we had with Mick, I think it's akin to that a Garda has with his or her partner. Might get on each other's baps. You might have rows. We had rows. Mick and I had rows. We were all human, right? But something that happened to me about a year ago, maybe 18 months, and he was the first person I rang when I was in the doo-doo over something. It was him. And instinctively I rang Mick. And we'd start the world out. We went to Lebanon, went to Peru, we went to all over Europe. He was in Mauritius. He was in India. He went all over the world with his job. And he treated the Garda Commissioner and the Army, the Defence Forces Lieutenant General, the Chief of Staff, the same as he treated bin man. And that was Mick. And he had an uncanny knack for talking to people. I think sometimes he was our battering ram, that I would ask him to do something because, you know, I get in work mode. Most reporters do, I think, which is laser focused, and Mick can be could have been a bit more humane, shall we say, and a bit better with people.
Oh, listen, I mean, he was the one who built a rapport with people more than I did, and I can't name you so many interviews where Mick put people at ease. More recently, you know, the interview I did with Ryan Casey, obviously you see me on camera interviewing Ryan, but Mick calmed Ryan down. Like, Mick just put him at ease. Like, Ryan was naturally very nervous about it, and whilst I had built a rapport and a relationship with Ryan and trust, you know, in that moment he just needed someone to kind of have a bit of banter with him and go, like, this is grand, because I was in professional mode or whatever you want to call it, and Mick would just crack the breeze, shoot the breeze with him, and that put him at ease. And in fairness to Ryan, and so many other people have said to me, you know, that he really put me at ease. He really, you know, just made me feel like I was just going to have a chat and there's nothing to worry about. And he was great at that. He really was.
I think one aspect of that, I think people are less threatened by a photographer than they are by a journalist, because they know what we're after, right? But Mick, you know, he'd put his hands in his pocket, he'd have his camera slung over his right shoulder or left, and he'd just be shooting the breeze with you. And I think he was much less threatening than you and I were, because we have to get our story or whatever, you know. And Mick was Mick, and he was a gift.
Yeah, he was just a much nicer person than me. But he was a true gentleman, and he would have, you know, it seems weird joking about this, but he would have absolutely hated the fact that we were talking about him at all on this podcast. He was someone who, you know, he liked to be in the background. He liked to be in the shadows. He didn't crave the attention. He wasn't like us journalists, egomaniacs. And if anything, Mick kept our ego in check, didn't he? Because it'd be rare you'd ever get a compliment off him. You might get something, you go, that was a great story, and Mick go, was it? And so he kept you on your toes like that. And I think he enjoyed that. He enjoyed winding us up. And
I miss his famous side eye. I always call it the Mick O'Neill side eye. He just, you know, you'd be sitting there and you'd say something probably stupid, and he'd just look at you and you would be humbled, and you'd go, all right, maybe I'm a bit of a dick. So yeah, look, but we all have our memories of Mick.
He was also, and I'll just finish with this, like, apart from being a photographer, he really was a crime journalist at heart. He had plenty of sources of his own, many friends in on Garda Síochána as well, who, you know, came out in force at his funeral. And, you know, he was just well loved and well regarded by everybody. And we'll miss him big time.
Oh, we will. It's not going to be easy.
No, but look, we have to continue to get on and do the job. Life might be difficult, but still have to, we still have to give you the news and give you the crime news. And we enjoy doing this podcast, and that's why we're still here doing it. I won't lie, it's been a difficult couple of weeks where I have thought about, Jesus, just take it easy and do nothing. But we appreciate the audience we have here. And I have to say, was really humbled by the amount of people that tune into the last two podcasts. It's been great. So thank you. So onto the news.
Can I just say one very, very quick thing? A lot of people had actually messaged me, ages ago before Mick's death. God, this Mick fella, Mick, we should try and get him on the pod. And we did mention it a few times, but he was rightfully, he was quite aware of his own personal security, and he didn't like his face being out there. So I think that really, and we did occasionally try to pursue him. He would have been brilliant, because it would have been about all the stories he did about camping places for 2 days, going through the undergrowth, all those things. He would have been fantastic. But maybe when he was retiring, he would have come on. So he was 62. So he actually turned 63 at the start of this month.
I don't think he ever would have really properly retired. He lived for the job. And you talk about going through the undergrowth. I think about that time he went into Shelton Abbey for me, and I might have had information about Brian Meehan golfing, but I didn't appreciate, nor could I ever understand the depths of which Mick had to go to crawl through all manner of undergrowth and bushes and get himself cut from head to toe in order to nail that amazing photograph, that splash that we had. And that's just one example of all the things that he did, for the love of the job.
All right.
We should get on to the news at hand, because I think we could probably talk about Mick for an hour.
Let's talk about Temple Bar. You're covering this story. It's a breaking story. We're recording this on Thursday afternoon, so it's quite current. What's the story with it?
Yeah, well, look, unfortunately, this isn't going to do anything to help the narrative that Dublin isn't safe. And look, I mean, the crime stats speak for themselves in terms of crime is not necessarily statistically up in Dublin, but that doesn't change the fact that all of us, and as a Dubliner myself, feel a bit more unsafe, because there does seem to be more and more of these types of horrific and sometimes random incidents in the city centre, and this is another one that's just horrible. An English tourist, we understand, was assaulted in the centre of Temple Bar, right there by the, where the centre is, so right in the square, the brand new square there in Temple Bar. In the early hours of this morning, was assaulted and on the ground was allegedly kicked in the head. And so he was transported to Beaumont Hospital, which, typically when you go to Beaumont, that's because you have a head injury.
That's and very bad.
His condition, as of the recording of this podcast, we were told is critical, which means, that he is effectively fighting for his life in hospital as a result of this incident. But it's been pointed out to me that this isn't so much a random assault in, say, for example, people might think of the terrible attack that happened on Stephen Termini, the American citizen, which caused a massive amount of outrage at the time that happened. Nonetheless, it's still horrific, but it seems to be a verbal altercation took place between two people. In the early hours of the morning. It's a busy, popular bar spot. This row spilled out and it became violent. And within a couple of moments, this person, is on the ground getting kicked in the head, supposedly. So it shows you how these things can escalate. But how many times, Mick, have we covered incidents of, say, quote unquote, one punch attacks? It only takes, a moment, especially when alcohol is involved, for somebody just to hit their head in the wrong way or be hit even once, and that's it. They've lost their life, or they're very, very seriously injured. And
you always know, Paul, as you say, whenever, so the nearest hospital to Temple Bar would be probably the Mater.
Yeah.
So, when somebody is brought to Beaumont, which is the National Specialist Centre for Head Injuries, that it's very, very serious.
Yeah, and look, I obviously wish him all the best hope, but it's to have him be described as critical. It sounds like a very, very serious incident. Unfortunately, it's just another incident of violence in our city centre over the last couple of days.
So let me ask you this, Paul. the investigation's underway. It's been led by Gardaí from Pearse Street. Have there been any arrests yet?
Again, as of the recording of this, I don't believe there have been any arrests. So Gardaí have already got CCTV footage, I'm told, of the incident. So I imagine they have a fairly good understanding of what happened here. So I anticipate there will be updates. That this is the nature of a job. Even as we're recording this now, I'm actively looking at a text message from someone that I'm looking to follow up on so that I can find out exactly the answer to the question you've just asked me. So, I don't know at the moment, but as of right now, I don't believe anybody's been arrested. But it's just another horrendous incident. And I think it's probably a good segue to mention a similar incident where someone has had received head injuries, albeit an entirely different and complicated incident. But it's one I think we should mention, and people might think, oh, we're afraid to cover it. We're certainly not. The other day in O'Connell Street last Friday, a man received head injuries, was transported to hospital, and he subsequently died this week on Monday. And it came out that basically there was an allegation that this man had been pushed by a member of An Garda Síochána just outside the Holiday Inn there on O'Connell Street, so right in the centre of Dublin, in the early hours of the morning. And as a result of that, he fell and hit his head off the concrete, and now he has sadly died. Paul Butler was his name, and he's from the Grace Park area, Drumcondra in Dublin.
Well, he was 51, was he?
51-year-old
right, okay,
man, yeah. Now, it's very sad, but the incident, obviously, because it involves a member of An Garda Síochána, immediately this is not going to be a Garda investigation. It is an independent investigation by the Ombudsman, now known as FISRU. We've often previously referred to as GSOC, but now it's slightly less complicated, but Irish name nonetheless. But FISRU are investigating this, and so they're looking to see whether there was any wrongdoing here by a member of An Garda Síochána, and to establish the facts of it as an independent watchdog, effectively. And
I think the Garda Commissioner under law has to refer this to FISRU. I think it's Section 98 referral, I think they call it, if somebody who interacts with Gardaí, receives serious injury or death. So it has to go to FISRU. Yes, but having said that, look, obviously we have our sources, and certainly we believe from the Garda perspective that this young member of An Garda Síochána, and he is young, he's only kind of recently in the force, it denies any wrongdoing, denies that he deliberately pushed this man, resulting in the fall that led to his death. The narrative from the Garda perspective is that sadly members of Garda Síochána were on patrol, and they discovered this man allegedly urinating basically on a public street. They told him to move on. He was allegedly stumbling, and whatever interaction then happened between this young member of An Garda Síochána and the victim, wherein he was saying he was trying to prevent the man from falling, he fell and he hit his head off the concrete. And again, hitting your head off concrete, it really only one knock potentially, but we don't know exactly what's happened here, and that's why there's an investigation. And it's important to say that O'Connell Street is patrolled by Store Street Garda Station, and our listeners may know that Store Street is one of a number, I think it's 3 Garda stations where they're trialling body cameras. Yes. So it's likely that Garda has body camera footage of it. Yeah, well, and we were advised that there is footage, although I'm not privy to what kind of footage they have, but they have footage of some kind in relation to this incident. And there's plenty of CCTV. You say it was at the Holiday Inn, so I presume the Holiday Inn have their own CCTV. Don't know where it covers, but Dublin, there's quite a heavy preponderance of CCTV cameras anyway. Yeah, it's a very sad incident. We're told that obviously the Garda is devastated about this, and the family of Mr. Butler are devastated, and they're looking for answers, I'm sure. And it must be very, very hard to comprehend that your loved one goes out on a night out and they don't come home because they've supposedly hit their head, and then there's talk of
Garda involvement, and did they or did they not act correctly? And there's a lot of questions there and a lot of trauma and difficulty for them. So look, FISRU is there to investigate all of that. But the Garda member, I believe, has not been suspended from duty, nor does he need to be at this point, unless there is an obvious finding of wrongdoing. But there's no a disciplinary process happening internally within An Garda Síochána at the moment, I'm told.
I just go back to the body cams. I think, is there a certain threshold that the guards don't keep the body cams on the whole time. So when there's a certain level, I think a certain level of interaction with the public, they turn it on. This may have happened too quickly. It may have just been, he didn't think there was any, who knows? So I don't know if he has body camera. We'll have to wait and see. But, if there's a certain threshold, body cameras can be used, but I don't necessarily know if it's for every minor interaction that suddenly may become serious. Do you know what I mean?
I don't know whether that way was anticipated to be in any way a serious incident. I think it's just a case of a man being asked to move on, and whatever interaction then happened between them and him, it was quick. And it's very tragic no matter what way you look at it. But we've covered it comprehensively. We often get accused of ignoring and avoiding stories that might not look so favourably upon a member of Garda Síochána. And it may well be that this member did act in a way that is unbecoming of a Garda, or it may be that he's completely innocent, and this is just a terrible tragedy. Nonetheless, we'll cover it no matter what the outcome of it is.
As they always say, Paul, news is news. And people they don't really get that. News is news.
Yeah. And speaking of which, we might as well move on to the next topic, which I would have said verged on showbiz rather than news initially. But,
Sandra Mallon should be doing this, our showbiz editor.
Well, I always admittedly, and I'm not going to say dismissive, but I probably... I would usually typically ignore something I see on social media initially, unless there was something obvious to it. But if you're a young person like me, and I am still young,
how dare you?
And you're on TikTok, you would have seen allegations in relation to Electric Picnic and a scam that was going on. Even I nearly ended up saying it there. If you go on social media now, you'll probably get all manner of information that I am not, as a journalist, allowed to put out there because I'm held to a different account, even though now you can put whatever you want on the internet. But anyway, I digress. This is in relation to a scam of Electric Picnic tickets that were being sold, and then people were not getting the tickets. And as more and more stories came out on TikTok, it seemed as though there were dozens, or if not in excess of 50, even now looking like potentially hundreds of young people who have been scammed potentially by this person. But the showbizy or the interesting aspect of it is that the person behind this was allegedly a well-known beauty pageant influencer, shall I call her, a young lady who is known in the beauty pageant world and is a social media influencer who had over 7,000 plus followers across multiple different platforms. So she was well known in that world, and lots of people were putting their trust in her, supposedly, to give over these 2 tickets for Electric Picnic, which did not exist. And as a result of that, so this is where I became interested. It then emerged that several of these young people had come forward to the Gardaí and have made formal statements, and the Garda Fraud Squad, for lack of a better term, Fraud Squad Gardaí are investigating this as potential fraud. So it is a criminal investigation, and this woman has been spoken to as well. And interesting, it looks like potentially hundreds of thousands of euro was potentially handed over to this young woman as part of this scam. So even though it started out quite innocently, quite simply, really, I'm selling 2 tickets for Electric Picnic, get in touch. She allegedly, supposedly managed to scam people out of a 6-figure sum of money in total. So, it's not something to necessarily gloss over. I mean, it's serious enough. As if, in terms of a scam, it is a lot of money.
It's I suppose it's an aspect of modern life. I'm not into EP or Electric Picnic. But I am into football, as people will know from my sins. I'm a City fan. But the number of times I see accounts on Twitter, right? I'm not talking about this case, I'm just talking generally. Number of times people on Twitter who offer tickets, because it's very hard to get tickets for most big teams nowadays, right? Even City. I know people think we don't sell it, but we do. Anyway, so you have to go through a rigmarole to try and get tickets. And the number of people who appear to get scammed by people who go, listen, I've got 2 tickets for Arsenal or the Emirates or whatever. And it just seems to be that the way modern life is, people go, yeah, I've got 2 tickets, DM me. And then the next thing they're out a couple £100.
Yeah, well, I nearly felt like I got scammed by the amount of money that I was charged for Oasis. But anyway, we won't talk about that.
What's the story? Was it good?
Morning Glory. God, it was unbelievable. Yeah, but I mean, I'm just like so many other people. I won't gloat about it too much. But it was amazing. It was an amazing concert. But yeah, like Electric Picnic is huge for young people as well. And I suppose you can see how you get caught up in the fever of trying to get last minute tickets. And so it seems like a lot of people were scammed by this woman, allegedly. But the update we have today, I don't know whether the story's come out yet, but I'm told that this young lady is cooperating fully with Gardaí, and that she has basically put her hands up and said, look, like, yeah, I'll give the money back. So she's vowed to give all of the money back to all of those who have been scammed. So I don't know whether or not she may end up being arrested or facing criminal prosecution over it, but I mean, it is a criminal offence. But it seems as though she's cooperating fully anyway with the investigation.
Let's digress for a minute. What was your first concert?
That's really digressing. We're talking about crime here.
I know. I just want let's talk about
my first concert. It was probably U2. Yeah, probably U2.
Mine was a long. It was Selfie. I wonder how many people watching this or listening to this will have heard of Selfie and never mind being there. God, it was in the RDS and it was fantastic. I think the Boomtown Rats announced they were splitting that day or shortly afterwards, and U2 and all were there, and I was 16 and I thought I was the dog's bollocks being let go down to Dublin from Belfast, and it was super. So anyway, that was my concert. Anyway, I'm digressing.
I think U2 was mine because I've been a
that was
U2
my
fan.
second one. In 1989, Croke Park, where some agent got up on the roof and Bono stopped and said, the only place you get high on our place is on our music, something like that. We all thought he was great. Anyway.
Funny he was his vocal now, but...
Sure. Just sing your song, Bono.
Yeah. Oh, don't get me started on that now. We'll end up getting ourselves in trouble. So we want to talk a little bit about Conor McGregor, but first in the context of a story that you wrote about an individual who allegedly carried out a firebomb attack on the Black Forge pub, Conor McGregor's pub, and a rather unexpected twist in that story.
How many times are you sitting there, especially on a day off, when somebody communicates to you and you go, holy shit? So I had my holy shit moment a couple of Saturdays ago. People may remember that Mr. McGregor's pub, the Black Forge Inn, and every day is a school day. It's in Walkinstown. I thought it was in Drimnagh, but I was told forcefully it was in Walkinstown, and I checked, and it is. There was an attempted arson attack there on the 25th. I know you're looking. It does say Walkinstown in Google Maps. I checked.
I mean, it's close to the Walkinstown round.
I know. Yeah. Anyway, it's 25th of July, early in the morning. There was an attempted arson attack on that house. So I've been sort of following it, and somebody contacted me shortly before there was an arrest. Said, I think SDU are looking at this. Now, SDU ramps things up dramatically because that's the Special Detective Unit who are the anti-terror police, effectively. And I was going, SDU? What the hell is that about? So on the Saturday morning, a couple of Saturdays ago, I got a sniff that a guy had been arrested about it. He... and this is where Twitter might go nuts. He's in prison for something else. Yeah. We can't say what else he's in for. Others can. No problem. Let them at it. We're not going to, because the case is live. But that man there was a so-called Section 42 warrant. That warrant has to be applied by the guards to get somebody out of prison, bring them out and then arrest them. So this man was arrested on suspicion of this. And they put out a query into the Garda press office, and they came back and they confirmed the arrest on the Saturday morning. But in that statement, they said the Special Detective Unit are investigating. And that brought it to a whole new level. And my inquiries led me to establish that they were looking at a suspected Islamic jihadist connection to that attack and to another issue, which I'm not going to get into. And that's big news. That is really, really big news. So the man was questioned for 24 hours, released from Garda custody and put back into the prison service custody in a prison in Leinster, and he's still there at the moment. But we can talk about this. It's very, very significant. Guards had always, in relation to the McGregor attack, nothing else, they'd always been wary about a lone wolf attack by an Islamic jihadist. And we know that there was one in Galway, a priest was attacked. It was, I said, Ranmore Barracks. That was the first known one. I think the McGregor attack is the second one, and that's very, very serious. And in both instances, you're talking about lone wolves. You know, say if you're in intelligence and you're trying to, you know, infiltrate a group of Islamic terrorists, whatever, it might be easier to do it if there's 4 or 5 of them. But if there's one man, the classic lone wolf, how can you infiltrate one person? Almost impossible to defend against, really. So there's a significant anti-terror investigation into this man and that attack on the Blackpool Inn now.
Mm. And it's interesting just to note, you know, we would have received a bit of backlash for only covering one aspect of Conor McGregor. So it was good to see you cover that story, because we, you know, I mean, I suppose Conor was actually pleased. I think he did actually retweet the story, or so I'm told, and blocked. But anyway, I was told. That, you know,
it's a significant story. It is, in fairness. It's a really significant story.
News is news, as you said, and you know, we happily covered that. It's obviously a horrific incident, and Mr. McGregor's business does not deserve to be targeted, and certainly not by Islamic jihadists either. So, look, we will cover that, and you know, we're not afraid to cover these things, no matter what our personal opinions might be of certain people.
And I will stress again, an Islamic lone wolf attack is a nightmare, one of the nightmares for Garda, right? Because it's unpredictable, it's highly dangerous, and it's almost impossible. I would say it is impossible to prevent, really, unless Garda see somebody going to do it and stop it that way. It's really, really difficult.
But can I ask you, I mean, obviously we have to be careful because this person is before the courts, but, you know, is there any intelligence in terms of this person's background, or we're only looking into that now, really?
Well, you're going to get me in trouble, aren't you?
See, I don't know whether we can go into it. Yeah.
Well, look, his background is certainly being examined. He is a suspected Islamic radical, and that's the truth. That's why SDU's, or you know, Counter-Terror International. There's CTO. There's 2 types of special detective unit. One deals with outside and international terrorism, including Islamic radicalism here, and they're investigating this.
And we don't know why specifically McGregor's business was targeted by, you know, for what reason, you know?
Well, I think that's under investigation, but I think this man, who is Irish born, people won't like that, but news is news. He is Irish born and bred. They would be looking at radicalization. Right.
Okay. But again, you know, this defies this narrative that we're not willing to cover subjects of this matter. We happily will. I don't want to give it too much credit, but like people suggest that we'll only talk about people who are Irish, or it doesn't matter what nationality or otherwise, you know, we will cover it, you know. That's the only thing I'll say coming from that angle, you know. You've mentioned this person is Irish born, that's factual, you know.
But I've also mentioned that they're looking at Islamic radicalization, and Islamic terror, and which jihadi attack.
Yeah. Well, you haven't shied away from that, you know. So
anyway, so look, there is a Garda investigation ongoing. It's a very serious investigation. So, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if there were further developments in that case into the attack on Mr. McGregor's pub.
But I see people might wonder, you're being measured here. Again, we got to be careful because people are before the courts, and we can say very little, unfortunately. But more will come out on that, and it will be covered.
We were talking off air about another case, not connected to this, but it's even about another country, but just, there are legal difficulties for us. And it's not about Mr. McGregor or anything about it. It's a completely different subject. I'm just saying that so our stories get legaled, and there are fantastic legal minds in our organisation, thank God, who keep us on the straight and narrow, and we have to rely on their sage advice. And that's just it.
We
know what I'm talking about.
I also think we can mention, although I'm going to be measured, there was an incident widely covered a couple of weeks ago in which a Garda was attacked in the street, and footage of it was shown, and then we got accused of not covering it, or covering it up, or trying to wash over the facts of that, whatever. That's not true. But again, there is an individual who has been charged and is before the courts, and that means our hands are tied in terms of what happens after the court case, what might come out after somebody is charged. We really can't get into it. But I don't know, maybe I'm going a bit mad trying to give any of the credit to these people on social media, but there just seem to be an awful lot of people who believe that there's this cover up of facts. We're not afraid of covering incidents like this, but we're held to a different account. We will be literally sued or held in contempt of court.
Yes,
if we talk about these things while they're before the courts. And
I might have a slightly different view from many journalists about this. I think people are entitled to hockey us. I have no problem with people hockeying me on Twitter or YouTube. I'm not saying I deserve it or we deserve it. I'm just saying that free speech is more important to me. I'm all for criticism too, but it has to be based in fact. And that's my problem, personally speaking, with Conor McGregor, because he decided to have a go at myself and our publication. Yes.
Whilst not having the facts on his side, he decided to just have a go at us. And then someone like him with a massive platform, gets to say that unchecked. So I have a problem with that. I really do. But anyway, I'm not here to have another row. I'm just saying, that's where I would have a problem with criticism on that level, where, unfortunately on Twitter or on X, it just goes completely unchecked. And we are always checked and have to be so measured and careful with what we say. So.
I think he'd come on the pod.
I don't think so, because I don't think he likes hard questions.
Fair enough. Okay.
So, whatever. And people might, you're being biased. You're being biased towards Mr. Conor McGregor. Yeah, I'm biased against Conor McGregor because Conor McGregor has enough convictions to his name and was found liable by a jury in a court of law, and a decision was held up in a court of appeal that he raped Nikita Hand. And that's, if you're going to say that I shouldn't be in any way biased against that person, that doesn't mean I won't give him a fair hearing. Like your story, if I had that tip off, I would have covered it same as you. But I'm a human being. I have opinions. We're both human beings, and we're not this. We're not completely neutral on absolutely everything, to the point when someone is literally found liable by a jury and has convictions to their name, we're going to look at them a little bit differently.
Yeah, Sinead. Yeah,
I've gone on a rant. Conor wasn't. People are going, you wanted to. No, I didn't. I don't want to talk about Conor anymore. We should move on.
Right, what do we talk about next?
An example of how live news is. I have a little bit more information on the Temple Bar incident. I'm told that while this man was critical and he's still in a serious condition, apparently his condition has somewhat improved. So hopefully that's a good news development for a change.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
So shall we leave it there? That's a lot for... Well,
I just want to mention, while we were away, the Guards got a new boss. I think we should just talk about this for a couple of minutes. So Justin Kelly, yeah. Who I wish I had put money on him to be, because everybody was telling me he was the favourite. There were 14 applicants, but a couple of weeks ago it was announced to everybody's surprise that he's going to be the next commissioner. He takes over really in September, so just a few weeks ago. Drew Harris, not universally popular within rank and file Guards. I think it's fair to say that. This man is a career Garda. Drew Harris obviously was in the RUC, then the PSNI, came down here in 2017 to become Garda Commissioner. So it's been a very interesting ride, we'll put it that way, for Mr. Harris. So I don't know what he's going to do next. He's still a young man. He's early 60s, I'd say. So Justin Kelly, a career Garda, he's from Clondalkin in West Dublin. I was asking, was he the first Dub commissioner? But Noreen O'Sullivan was from Dublin, people tell me. So look, he's got a tough job in his hands, and I think he has an awful lot of challenges. And I say he'll wake up every day and go, what next? What the hell is next? What is next on my plate? So he'll try to control the narrative, but there'll be days when things come to him. So I think it's a 5-year contract. So it'll be very interesting to see how he gets on.
It'd be hugely interesting because there has, throughout Drew Harris's tenure, for many legitimate reasons, there's been a lot of Gardaí who didn't favour him, especially the GRA certainly had no time for him and voted no confidence in him, and he wasn't invited to the last conferences. But there was a bit of there was always a discomfort with the fact that he was an outsider, you know, to a degree that he and some people felt that he just didn't understand how to run on Garda Síochána. Well, Justin Kelly is an insider, and very much so. So that argument won't fly anymore. So he's one of their own, and that'll either go in his favour or in a couple of months' time, depending on how he gets on. You know, it might be proof of further issues within Garda Síochána that need to be examined beyond that narrative of, oh, it's just because he's an outsider. You know what I mean?
I will say one thing. A lot of guards, I think, are being slightly naive, as in, as you said, he's one of our own, right? He's the commissioner. He's not going to be friends with, you know, it's not his job to be friends with these people. He is the commissioner in charge of Garda Síochána, and if he has to take unpopular decisions, he will. So I think guards who go, yeah, he's a dub, we'll be grand, I think they might need to reassess that.
And he was a serious enough guy, you know. So, but like, I mean, he oversaw much of the investigation into the Kinahans that is now, coming to a head. The file is with the DPP, and we do think the decision is imminent. And he really led that as leading the organised crime division of Garda Síochána. He was the head of that whole investigation, so he knows what's in that file, and he knows the strength of the evidence or otherwise. So probably within his tenure, we will know he will be overseeing the potential charges against Daniel Kinahan and maybe his father and his brother as well. So it's going to be a very interesting couple of months or years. God, I hope it's not years.
No, I would say it would happen very early. A decision by the DPP, which is independent, obviously, it'll be very early in his tenure.
Well, it's 2 years this week, I think, since they sent the file off. So, I mean, that decision is more than overdue.
You can tell the DPP to hurry up.
Well, please hurry up, because we need something to cover. But I mean, look how long it took to get Sean McGovern back. So, I mean, it'll be probably even more complex trying to get the Kinahans back. But all of that's going to happen within Justin Kelly's tenure, more than likely, unless maybe in the last couple of weeks of Drew Harris's reign, maybe it'll happen. We'll see.
Yeah, maybe. That would be a very interesting headline.
It'd be a good way to go out.
Yeah.
Right. Thanks very much, everybody. We hope to talk to you next week. Thank you.
And we dedicate this to Mick.